What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever it is you guys get around to watching this. Once again, guys, Steven Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel. What is going on, everybody? So, look, today's topic, I just wanted to kind of round out some of the thoughts on some of the prospects we've covered today, or covered in the past week or so. Like, we've talked about everyone from Denzel Mims to Justin Jefferson to Jalen Reagor to T. Higgins to KJ Hamler. I mean, we've rolled through a lot of these prospects. So today, guys, I just want to take a little bit of time out of my day, and I want to kind of give you guys some final thoughts about what I think about some of these guys. Let you guys kind of in on, like, okay, this is what my definitive thoughts are about these guys we've covered. I'll talk a little more in depth today about player comparisons for these guys and who I think they might be in a perfect world for the Philadelphia Eagles if development is on point here. All right, y'all. Let's jump into today's topic. Look at Davante Adams' release off the line of scrimmage. All right, guys. The prospect I want to revisit today, guys. I'm going to do this with all of them, but I want to revisit one particular prospect because this individual turned out to be more controversial than I was anticipating. I didn't think there was going to be this kind of reaction to any of the prospects. Not like what I received for Justin Jefferson. And what I want to dive down today is, guys, if you were to ask me to give you an NFL comparison to what Justin Jefferson can be at his best, right? So if we develop him correctly, at Justin Jefferson's best, what could this kid be? I say look no further than Davante Adams. Because that's the question the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have to ask themselves. Are we giving up on a Davante Adams-like talent if we fail to pursue, this kid? That has to be asked, guys, because when you talk about, he's just a slot guy. Well, look at Davante Adams. Davante Adams is a bit of a positionalist player, too, to where he plays the flanker in the Z. He plays the slot as the Y. He'll even play the X as a split end. You got to ask yourself, is this kid that type of diverse football player to where you can move him up to where the matchup is best suited for him and add extra strain on the defense by basically making him a Z if you need him a Z, a Y if you need him to be a Y, or an X if you need him to be an X? So today, guys, I want to talk about the comparison of Davante Adams and Justin Jefferson. And is there any merit to such a comparison?
Rodgers floats it. Adams, what a throw, what a catch.
Okay, guys, so if we're going to start discussing Davante Adams and Justin Jefferson, one thing I'll say is you can do the generic thing and look at their height and their weight and say, oh, look, they're both 6'1" and over 200 pounds. That's true. But let's keep in mind, they're both 6'1", they're both over 200 pounds, but Davante Adams is like 215, so he's about 15 pounds heavier than Justin Jefferson. Davante Adams is not quite the same speedster that Justin Jefferson is. Justin Jefferson is a much faster football player. That's not where I think the comparison is. I think the comparison is in the way that they release from the line of scrimmage. Davante Adams isn't with a hesitation release. Sidney Jones is expecting a slant that entire time. I think what makes these two guys kind of similar to me is how they could be positionless and that give you a worry of, we just don't know where to play them at, but at the same time bring you excitement of, you don't really need to worry about where you play them at because they're good enough to win outside or inside. They're good enough to win on the boundary side or the field side. They're just that kind of diverse football player, and you can see it in their first 2 to 4 steps. It's really in the footwork. Watch his eyes and body set that corner up for the fade. Guys, if you go back to that Week 4 meeting between Green Bay and Philadelphia, where we played Thursday night up in Green Bay at Lambeau Field, right? Shortened week, all that stuff. Go back to the first 3 plays of that game, and it'll show you the versatility of a guy like Davante Adams. The first snap of the game, he was aligned towards the field side as the Z receiver, a flanker. The second snap of the game, they had him moved in as a slot receiver, as a Y receiver. In the third snap of the game, now he's playing the boundary side as the X, the split end receiver. That's where he got that big reception on Sidney Jones. Guys, the thing is, when you look at a prospect like Justin Jefferson, you have to ask yourself, is this kid capable of doing the same thing? Positionless, move around, play chess with the board kind of football player. Because my original thought with Justin Jefferson, where I thought he would fit really well, was with 12-man personnel. I think this is a kid that if you lined him, on the short side of the field as an X, and 12-man personnel with, Goddard and Ertz working the middle of the field, with this kid possibly getting vertical on a guy, and you got another guy like Djax that other teams got to worry about. Like, I thought that would be like a really good fit for him in Philadelphia in terms of that. But then I started really paying attention to the way Davante Adams runs his routes, and I went back and was reviewing the film on Justin Jefferson, and it dawned on me, man, this kid, there's a little Davante Adams to his game, guys. Little stutter step, he sells a post route, woohoo, right into that fade. Guys, those of you who know me have been watching me do these for a while, you guys know I'm a Jalen Reagor guy. I think Jalen Reagor is a really good fit in Philadelphia, but I ain't gonna lie to you. There's a big argument right now between who's the fourth guy. Is it Jalen Reagor? Is it Denzel Mims? Is it Justin Jefferson? Early on in the process, everyone thought it was Reagor. Then you kind of had the Justin Jefferson push. Now it's starting to maybe trend towards Denzel Mims. It's hard to say, right? I think you could even put T. Higgins in that conversation. But this is what I will tell you. If you're looking at Justin Jefferson, I revert back to what I said about Justin Jefferson in the earlier video I did last week. Justin Jefferson is a space creator. He is very similar to Davante Adams, where he creates space for the quarterback to throw into. He will manipulate defenders at the line of scrimmage. His route running is very crisp and very precise. He's not a blazer. He's a fast guy. He's not a burner, though. But he's got adequate enough speed to get vertical on guys and to really make people look stupid. Look, if this is a Davante Adams-esque type player, a positionalist guy you can throw anywhere, and he's going to be successful, the Eagles have got to be very, very careful in their approach here, guys. It's easy to get these things wrong, and if this is this type of player, the Eagles, this scouting department in the front office really needs to take notice. Davante Adams on a 3-step release right there, guys. Okay, guys, things to take into consideration with Justin Jefferson. When you're out there weighing, should we go Jefferson? If he's a fourth receiver, should it be Mims? Should it be a guy like Jalen Reagor? Should it be, another, you can insert a lot of players here, guys. But if you're weighing them out, okay, if you had to really dive down deep on Jefferson, this is what I'll say about him. Some of the things that concern me about him, okay? Despite what people say, oh, he played in the SEC, so he played this better competition, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, but he played inside at the nickel, so that argument doesn't really apply there. And to make matters worse, he kind of avoided the better pass coverage teams in the SEC. He didn't play Kentucky, which was the best pass coverage team in the SEC. And if you're going to say that other receivers like Denzel Mims, played lesser competition, well, let's keep in mind that, if you look at a guy like Justin Jefferson, he got about 7 touchdowns himself coming out of the Big 12, playing, Texas, playing Oklahoma. So you got to be fair in your considerations here, guys. But he did play in the slot. He didn't play necessarily against the number one corner on each team. So can he play against the number one corners in the NFL? That could be a concern. Look, when you break it down by the film, I think this kid's going to be okay, personally. But I got to be fair if I'm going to assess people here. Number 2, if you look at this kid, you got to ask yourself, is this a Davante Adams positionless player who can play all 3, the X, the Y, the Z? Or is this a kid who is a very good slot receiver, but we're not certain about his ability to play outside? Is he, a guy that maybe he can play inside and outside, but maybe he's better suited to play the field, and he doesn't do quite well on the boundary? Those type of questions are going to exist with a player like Justin Jefferson, okay? The third question you could probably ask yourself about Justin Jefferson is going to come down to not so much Justin Jefferson, maybe so much as the Eagles and just the fate of the NFL. Is this the right draft to take a kid and say he's positionless? You're going to train him at all 3. We tried that with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. It wasn't a very successful go at that. Do we have the coaching staff to actually, coach this kid up to be able to play a positionless role like a Davante Adams? Do we, this NFL season, I should say, is the NFL season going to allow enough practice time for a young kid like this to step in and fill this role. So I do think you will have questions like this when it comes to a guy like Justin Jefferson, but I want to know your thoughts, guys. Tell me, with this expanded viewpoint about Justin Jefferson, what do you think about this kid? Because there's a real chance that this is the fourth receiver taking off the board, and he might become a Philadelphia Eagle. We have to take that into consideration and understand on the high side, what could this kid be? And on the lower end, what could hold this kid from developing? All right, y'all, let me know your thoughts. You know what time it is. EAGLES. All right, y'all. Yes, I have a Canadian shirt on. No, I'm not from Canada. No, I've never lived in Canada. I just like the shirt. All right, y'all. Peace. I'm out of here.